Good evening and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm Elliot Margolis and I'm here with my co-host George Binns, and our guest tonight is Donato Paglio, who is running for state representative against Jerry Parisella. Before we get to Donato, though, I want to mention one thing to you because this is very important. We can vote early in Massachusetts. You don't have to wait till November 6th to vote. So if you're not going to be around November 6th, or if you're afraid that the weather might be bad and not want to go out, vote early and make sure your vote counts. It's very important, particularly in an election like this when we have so many people competing. Let your voice be heard. Vote, and you can vote early. And enough of that. Donato, welcome to the show. Nice to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So, first thing I want to ask you is, or mention, you look pretty good for a guy that's been through a heart transplant. And I just want to say you're looking good.
Thank you.
You know, that must have been one big ordeal for you.
Yeah, it was something else. I mean, I can't, every day is a blessing. Just grateful to be this side of the lawn. And what else can I say?
With that in mind, one has to ask, why are you running for state representative?
I'm just basically not happy with the direction of the state. It's moved far too much to the left. I don't feel that our representatives and our government for that aren't doing things for the citizens. They're doing it, what I feel, for themselves, for one, and also for illegal aliens, which is my biggest point. I cannot understand why they are letting them have benefits when they're not even in this country legally. They have stolen Social Security numbers, falsified documents. They're committing welfare fraud. It needs to end. That is my primary reason for running.
And you differ from Jerry in this philosophy?
I believe so, yes.
George?
Well, a little different tack. Imagine you were a real estate agent and you were talking with the CEO of a big company and you're trying to convince him to come to Beverly. What are the top 3 things you'd tell him about Beverly that he should be here? He should bring his company here.
1, we have great public transportation and access to public transportation. We are also very accessible to the highway system. 128 and Route 1 is just a short drive away. And also, it is a great community just to set up a business in. I've lived here my whole life. See, it's changed a lot since I was a kid. A little too much, but it is. I believe it is business friendly overall.
Suppose you talk this gentleman into coming here and setting up his factory, and a couple of years later he's coming to you and says, we got to fix some things. What things would you think he'd like to fix?
He'd have to address his particular certain interest, whatever it is. I can't speculate. He'd have to tell me.
What would you like to fix in Beverly?
What would I like to fix?
Yeah.
I'd like to slow down the amount of growth in the city. Change is inevitable, that's true, but there's just too much too soon. I live downtown, and I'm affected by all this development that has been going on. One of the big problems is rat infestation. I don't know if you're aware of this problem.
Yeah.
Ever since
made the Boston Globe even. Yeah.
I live on Summer Street, which is between Cabot and Rantoul. Right at the end of my street is where they're building one of them new high-rise things. That area used to be a wetland. It was an open sewer when I was a kid. All those rats that were living there have fled into the neighborhoods. We have tons. We catch at least 3 or 4 a week in my house. It's just too much. You know, they really need to slow the amount of development downtown.
Well, since this has gotten to be a, I guess, statewide problem, at least in the Northeast, what do you think the state ought to be doing? Because you're going to represent us in Boston. And
Correct.
What would you get Boston to do to help us out?
Honestly, I don't have a direct answer for that. I mean, I think the city can take care of itself for the most part. Why? I don't think we should be soliciting the state for funds. When you do that, I feel you owe them something. Like how do I explain this? You can't, if you take money from the state, they're going to expect you to vote along with their agenda. I'm not going to do that.
Okay.
Excuse me, one second. You kind of got me. I'll admit that. I don't know too much about it. But you don't take money from the state because they're going to expect you to reciprocate at some point.
Yeah.
And expect you to go against your beliefs. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I got into this discussion years back, and the thing that bothers me about state taxes is you send the money to the state, they take off a percent of it, they send you back a little bit. If we kept the money here in town,
keep it local,
then we could afford to do a lot of these things without getting a lot of help from the state. And I'm not sure.
And without them having their hand in it. I feel keep it local and let the locals decide. You don't want the state coming in and then they're going to dabble with it. You don't want outside interference.
Yeah, they call it regulations. And one of the things that's getting me is the two rotaries up at...
in front of the Rocky Post?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got a very limited life expectancy before we're back where we started from again. And the intersection is 62.
Rantoul Street, you're referring to?
Pardon?
Rantoul and Elliott Street?
No, out at the highway, out at 128.
You mean that's 22, not 62?
Well, it's Route 62 going through there. It's exit 22, yeah.
Yeah, it's Route...
It's exit 22, but it's Route 62 that goes through Danvers, right?
Through Danvers, correct.
Through Danvers, yes.
Yeah, that's the street it's on.
Oh, okay. We're talking. I was thinking you were talking rotaries.
No.
That one by 62 is absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I mean, there's a case of we got a lot of help from the state, and then we needed some more help from the state. But anyway.
All right. So it's interesting. You sound like a libertarian. Explain your shirt.
Oh. Don't tread on me, my Gadsden patch. I'm just a believer of small government and just leave me alone. Let me live my life the way I want to do it. Stay out of my business.
So, which explains, a lot. Have you talked to the mayor about the problem with the rats?
No, I have not. I haven't seen Mike for a while. Last time I ran into him over the summertime down Lynch Park, but I've never addressed it with him.
Right. What things, as a state representative, do you want to change or do you want to accomplish if you get in instead of Jerry?
I'd like to reaffirm our Second Amendment rights. I feel this state is very intrusive on gun owners. I have a license to carry myself, and just the loop, the procedures that you have to go through. Granted, yeah, you want people to be safe and know how to properly operate a firearm, but I feel the restrictions. Like you remember the shooting out in Vegas?
Oh yeah.
And we all of us gun owners received that letter in the mail saying that if we have a bump stock, we have to surrender it. Why? That's private property. You do not have the right to take that away from me. Now, I personally don't own one, but if I did, why should I have to surrender that? Honestly.
Yeah, well, you're opposed to government regulation.
Correct.
And that's consistent with, would you be okay with nobody else can buy one, but those who have them, have them?
Like grandfather in? No,
Yeah.
You should be able to buy them if you want.
All right. What about, say, you talk about state interference. Some of the roads in Beverly are pretty shaky.
Yes.
We need state money for that.
Yes, we do.
But you don't have a problem with that at all, I assume.
Well, you got to maintain the infrastructure, without a doubt. If you want to maintain a good business community, you don't. And all of us were driving. our cars are, they're beaten up by the end of the winter. The potholes. My old car, I had to have new tires, new alignments, and it becomes costly. I don't have a problem with maintaining the roads as far as taking money from the state.
Okay, when you talk about maintenance and stuff, Beverly High School had to be replaced because of a lack of maintenance. The school was, 55 years old, and it had to be replaced. If you took every building in the city that was over 55 years old and replaced it, we'd have nothing here.
This is true.
And you look at Memorial. Memorial was only about 15 years older than the high school. The school budget is 50% of the city's budget as it is. So what do you think about the state mandating putting a certain amount of money just for maintenance of the properties instead of spending millions of dollars building new ones for no reason?
Well, obviously the buildings should have been properly maintained. As to why they weren't, I have no idea. Again, government incompetence. They knew it had to be taken care of, but they didn't do it. They diverted funds for other things. Whatever it is, I don't know. However, it should have been taken care of.
And hopefully they are with the new buildings. I sure hope so, because another 50 years we shouldn't have to build a new high school or middle school. But so that's where the money for this that we send to the state should come back. But let's just say we have a budget shortfall in the state. Are you in favor of increasing taxes at all?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No. They take enough as it is.
All right, so what happens if there is a shortfall and they need more money?
Here is where you can save the money. What brings up my whole point for running, the illegal immigration thing. We're paying out approximately $2 billion to keep them here. They're receiving free education, free medical care, they're getting WIC, food stamps, housing. Cut them off. Cut off all their funding. And then start throwing them out. You'll have plenty of money to pay for everything.
Well, the usual argument they make is that the reason we need immigrants is because the Americans won't do the work, and they can't get them to do the work. And one of the...
That's a lie.
I understand, but I mean, that's the argument. The other half of the argument is that a lot of companies can't find enough people to do the work they want because they're looking for people with certain talents, certain experience, certain backgrounds, and you don't get this with the immigrants. But at the same time, the way the economy is going, the demands on the jobs are getting to be more. And one of the things I would be interested in, how would you think about doing some sort of retraining program for older workers who get forced out or get displaced?
I can speak from experience on this. I was a printer by trade. Printing is a dead industry. It's all been replaced by copiers and laser printers. I had to retrain myself.
How did you do that?
I went and learned a new trade. I'm now working in a machine shop doing assembly work part-time. And I just took it upon myself. You don't need another government program. It's that simple.
Okay.
It really is.
Let's get into the detail. How did you learn to be a machinist?
Applying myself. I started just doing monkey work, delivery boy, learn the simple things, deburring, machines set up, assembly stuff. Now, I'm not a machinist. I don't know how to set up a CNC machine or a lathe, but I can do the basic things. And I just do as instructed.
Yeah.
So you got a job and they taught you what you need to know.
Precisely.
Yeah.
All right, so see, it can happen.
It can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're clearly not in favor of government handouts.
No, I am not.
Okay, now, but let's clarify that a little bit. Let's just say somebody loses their job. They got 2 kids, they got a spouse, and they've got a house and everything else, and they need some help.
Yes, if you've paid into the system. Now, I'm on disability myself. I work part-time to help subsidize my...
Right.
And, if you've paid your dues, you put in your so many quarters, you paid your taxes your whole life, that's what that's for. You should get that. I have a problem with people just showing up, illegals. The first thing they do, they get their fake Social Security number right to the welfare office, get the all the handouts. That's got to stop. Somebody's got to have the testicular fortitude to say it and to do it. I'm the guy.
I think I know the answer to this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyhow. How do you feel about voter ID?
I do support that.
You don't think it's discriminatory?
No, I do not.
Okay, I had a feeling about that one, George.
Yeah. Well, basically what it comes down to, anytime you want to cash a check or use a credit card or take out a loan, you got to prove who you are. I got to go down to the VA tomorrow, and they're going to ask me, who the hell are you? And show me your driver's license. Show me something with a picture on it.
Yeah.
And I think this is pretty well standard. And to say that you do the most important thing you can do as a citizen, which is vote, and you can walk in and say, oh, let's see, I checked that cemetery plot, and I think I'm...
Basically, you go to the Paglia and they card you.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I was, when I go to vote, I show the ID.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sir, that's not necessary.
But yes, it is.
Yes, it should be.
It's like, I actually went for a loan the other day at the bank, and because they say, can I see your license and another form of ID? I really wanted to say why. I really did, but you know why.
Yeah.
But there was one time I was at in Auburn at the Mass Pike, the thing there. I got fined for something, and I figured I was not guilty, and they were giving me a hard time. And I said to them, do me a favor. Just treat me as an illegal.
Yeah.
And the looks that I got from those people and the people in the room, he finally said to me, okay, see you later.
That's a Howie Carline.
Yeah. Well, I do listen to Howie on occasion. But, okay, you're working part-time.
Correct.
Allegedly, state representative is a part-time job.
Yes.
Nice pay for a part-time job. But my question is, do you think, being a part-time job, that you should get all the benefits like health care, per diem?
Absolutely not.
And,
And what they did by voting themselves a pay raise is absolutely disgusting. They should not be able to do that. That should go to the voters, and the voters should decide if they get a pay raise or not. Personally, I'd like to see the salaries rolled back to like 25, 30 years ago to what they were then. They're getting too much money for doing a lousy job.
Well, what do you think's lousy about the job?
Just the stuff that they pull off, voting themselves a pay raise for one. That is how do they justify that? Honestly.
Yeah.
They give themselves all these, travel expenses. I can see the people out in the western part of the state. They got to go all the way into Boston. I can see them getting, but the people in the metro area, they don't need that. And the foolishness of the bathroom bill that they passed.
question number 3 on the ballot.
Yes. All right. Who? I don't know the nitwit that come up with this one. Do you really want perverts and sexual deviants going into the ladies' room? Seriously. I mean, you got to be softer than a sneaker full of shaving cream to pull for that.
I like that one.
You cleaned that one up very good.
I mean, it's ridiculous. What are they thinking? I mean, who thought of that?
No,
Seriously.
Yeah.
We had a show on that last week. We discussed the 3 questions, and that's the way we feel.
Yeah.
You know.
So
same
why
thing.
are
3
they,
out of 4.
3 out? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. We have a,
And the other one, question 1. I mean, I've had a lot of experience with hospitals, as I'm
Yep.
sure you know. I do not support that. I would vote no on that. You don't need another government bureaucracy looking over the shoulders of the doctors and nurses, making sure they're not having too many patients. Why do you want to do that? It's just going to raise the costs of healthcare. Stupid. Let the medical professionals deal with it. Why do you want government bureaucrats sticking their noses in that?
This sounds like a repeat of last week because all 4 of us agreed on that one. And it's nice to hear that somebody who's running for office actually agrees the government has too much say in things.
They don't know squat about that. You know, they're just going to put a bunch
they
of
think they do.
They're going to put a bunch of hacks in who don't know anything and just screw it up even more, and then try to fix it, and it's going to cost even more. Just keep their noses out of it.
and one of the real problems they get up against is, where are you going to get all these nurses all of a sudden come January 1st if this goes through? And they aren't around. So what are you going to do? Turn people away? Because if a nurse in an emergency room can only handle 3 patients, and there's an accident with 4 casualties, what do they have to do? Sit and wait until another nurse comes in or somebody else?
And are they going to have an overseer making sure that the nurses aren't seeing more than that?
Well, that gets to be another government job.
Yeah, and actually they have this law in California, and it's costing California billions of dollars. And what's good for California is good for no place else in this country. So, you know.
My usual test is if California did it, we ought to vote no. Automatically, without even thinking about it.
So, are there any other well, let me throw one other issue at you that I've talked to Jerry Paracella a few years ago about this. I've talked to Joan Lovely about this. It really gets me cranky. The North Shore people are paying for the big dig by going over the Tobin Bridge.
Yep.
The South Shore people are not paying for the big dig, but they're using it. Would you try to change that? Because Joan Lovely is not going to, and neither is Paracella.
I would like to see the South Shore they should put some gantries coming up through the, coming up Route 3 at the O'Neill Tunnel. They really should. Stick them for part of it. I got no problem with that.
It would bring in a lot of money.
Yes, it would.
And it would mean that we in the North Shore aren't paying for the big dig that they're benefiting from. Yep. But that's, to me, an issue that Jerry's done nothing about it. Joan has done nothing about it. And that gets me cranky. So what I do is I don't go over the Mystic Bridge at all. I go all the way around to 93. Just because don't get me cranky, you know?
Well, when I go into Boston, it's mostly for medical stuff. I usually just take the train. It's easier.
Yeah. For Mass General,
with that
it's
traffic,
easy. Yeah.
Screw that.
Yeah, well, I'm a driver. Yeah. What can I tell you?
Yeah, I'm leaving at 5:30 tomorrow morning to get to an 8 o'clock appointment, but that's another story. But that's the other part of this game is that we recognize that in order to live in Beverly, you have to have a job someplace else, because most of the jobs in town don't pay enough to
live in Beverly.
Living here.
That's true.
And if you work here in the so-called vibrant community that makes Beverly so attractive, you can't afford to live here either. So you got to live someplace else. And my issue is with the traffic is it keeps getting worse and worse.
It's unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
you got to one of the problems is all the old there used to be a lot of single family homes in Beverly.
Yeah.
Most of them have been converted into multi-families now, and everybody's got their own car. There's no place to park downtown. The traffic is ridiculous no matter what time of day you're out there.
Yeah.
You try going up 1A to North Beverly,
Oh, forget about it.
yeah, any time of day, it's awful.
Yeah. And I guess one other issue I think we ought to thrash at is you started to talk about some of the immigrants. There's been a move afoot to make this a sanctuary state. I assume from the
You know where
discussion,
I'm going
I
with
know where
this.
you're going with that, but
Absolutely not.
I think the issue comes down to one of how do you sell the position that we should not be a sanctuary state when there are so many progressive liberals.
I don't call them progressive. I call them regressive.
Okay, well, that's another story. I can give you a lecture on George Lakoff later. But how do you convince some of these people that that ain't a very good idea?
Okay, let them set up a squatters camp in their backyard, because I don't want them downtown, because that's where they're going to end up living. Get them out of here. Every single one of them. I don't care if that sounds mean-spirited, cold-hearted. I'm looking out for the citizens. I'm looking out for us.
Yeah.
There's only so much resources. We can't just let everybody in here. It's unsustainable.
Yeah.
When my grandparents come over from Italy, there was no welfare. You had to have a sponsor. You had to be checked out. These people are just showing up and expecting handouts. No, get out of here. Just like last call at the bar. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Get them all out.
Yeah. That's a good way to do it, yeah.
Yeah.
So we're starting to run down. We've had a half hour of fun already. So the question comes down to, is there any words of wisdom you'd like to lay on the voters? That I think we had needed to point out that you're unenrolled, which used to be independent.
Independent, correct.
Yeah. What else would you say about yourself?
Well, as you can tell, I'm to the right of Attila the Hun, politically speaking. Just consider me. Granted, I'm a bit out there. I am very unconventional.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a politician.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can figure that out.
But you can learn.
I don't want to learn. I want to remain true to myself. I don't
Okay.
want to be a fraud.
Okay.
I'm not saying that Jerry is, but he's learned how to play the game.
Yep.
He's good at it, and he's a nice enough guy. I like him personally. But I don't feel he's doing an adequate job.
Okay.
He's been satisfactory at best.
Fair enough.
And I would like your votes.
And that's the magic word. And on that note, I think it's time to wind this one down. We thank you very much for coming. Wish you luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, as Elliot started the show off, vote early because...
But not often. But not often. Vote early, but not often.
Oh.
Only once.
Only once.
Only once.
Okay. Only once, and show an ID when you go. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it. And stay tuned. We'll be back with another show shortly.